So, of course, my name is Jasmine Sanders from the D.L. Hughley Show, and this guy with this incredibly obnoxious hat on, of course, is D.L. Hughley.
Yes.
Now, this is the first time
I'm on my way to my Senate hearings on whether Russia
with a hat like that, you can't hear nothing.
I'm trying to make sure there was Russian interference on the election.
So listen, we work together side by side every day, but I've never interviewed you. And this is an opportunity for me.
To me either, so
yeah, and you don't listen to me, so
right.
We're even.
This interview's over.
So let me ask you something. I walk around a lot with you in terms of being on the streets, and people are always stopping you and asking you, and giving you kudos about speaking out. Why do you think it's so important for you to speak out the way that you do?
Well, I don't know that it's important. I think that it's what I spent a lot of my time when I was very young being afraid to say and do things, and I don't want to spend my life, particularly from an entertainment perspective, doing that. So I try to say what it means, what I mean, and what's clear to me, and hopefully people will understand at least that that's my perspective. But I don't know why it's important to them. It's important to me because it's I think that when you're given the opportunity to have a voice, even if it's just yours, that you have an obligation.
Well, was there like a pivotal moment in your life that changed you? Because I don't know all of your work, but from obviously
you
people changed the door. I did. Plane? We didn't see that. I didn't see that on Soul Plane. And what was the other terrible one you did?
Yeah. Well, I don't think I've ever done a good movie.
Well, yeah, you have. We just ain't seen one. But no, listen. Usually, when people change the way you have in terms of the subject matter that you talk about, typically it is because something happened, something that you saw, or something that you experienced. Was there something that changed or happened to you that made you say?
Ironically, I just think the country's metronome is set to a different place now. I think I've always kind of talked about the things that I have, and I think and so it doesn't feel significantly different, but I think that people's their centers are different now, and I don't know if that's the advent of social media. I don't know, but I do know that not in terms of individual stories, but in terms of the sentiments and the ideas I've expressed, I think they've always, to a greater or lesser degree, it's always what I've done. But I think people now are more inclined to hear than they were before. Well,
do you think it ever gets too heavy for you at times to speak your truth? Because as we can see, a lot of comedians are out there speaking their truths, and it's not really faring well for them. A lot of comedians are having to apologize, not just comedians, but a lot of people in general, for saying things that other people don't like to hear.
Well, then I wouldn't say that they were speaking their truth. I think that they were speaking the truth in terms of their bottom line and the truth in terms of their brand. But I don't know that I've said anything that I would feel like I would need to apologize for. I think if I'm saying it artistic, if somebody has a perspective, people can't make you beholden to their idea of you. Obviously there's going to be a price to pay for that, but I don't think the idea is to change people's minds or their ideas, is to change their conduct. The fact that I accept something means I may not be comfortable with it. But that's what we're after. We're after people's acceptance of things in a way that I don't know is positive for our society. I don't know if it's positive for our betterment. All I have an obligation to do is to make sure you're treated fairly. Not to make sure that everything happens the way you want it to. Not to make sure that you always win, but that you are treated fairly and humanely. After that, it's a free fall. Like, everybody wants equality until the lifeboats are dry. And then everybody, well, no,
wait. Me first. I'm first. Yeah, automatically.
So I think that.
So you talk a lot about being non-apologetic, and you live your life pretty much out in the open. You say it all the time that, listen, I am who I am. Do you have any regrets?
Sure, I have a lot of regrets.
What's the biggest one?
I regret that I have done things that have hurt people. I regret that I haven't listened. I regret that I haven't been as loving as I should have. I have a lot of regrets, but I can't think of anything that I would do significantly different, because everything I've done has gotten me to this. There's so many things I regret, but none of them, I think, they all needed to be in concert to make me
who you are,
as clear as I am now,
with the hat and everything. Just
I'm dope.
makes you
dope.
Scarf, all of that. So TVs, movies, film, books. You've done a lot of stuff, especially books. I know you just wrote a book that, of course, we all know is a New York Times bestseller.
Right.
The second one. Let me make sure I get that right.
Hang on, let me hand you your notes for this.
Don't give me them notes. I don't want the notes.
Don't say
so a lot of books. I know you're working on a new book now,
Sure.
right? What's the name of that book?
It is basically, the premise of the book is that I want to submit the argument that black people would be better off if we were under the protection of fish and game and wildlife, as opposed to the judicial system and law enforcement. Because you couldn't do to a white-tailed deer what you do to us. You couldn't do to, like, I want to see if we can get Chicago declared an endangered habitat. I want the same blue laws. There are blue laws that allow for even the animals that you can hunt. There's certain things you can't do. You can't trap them. You can't bait them. You can't fish but use dynamite to blow up all the fish.
Right.
Like, in other words, if black people were protected by the same hunting regulations that animals, that it's okay, that we would fare better. Like, they couldn't entrap you. Like, in other words, they couldn't pull up a van full of Nikes in Chicago's West Side and try to entrap them, have sting operations and stuff like that. So I think it's an interesting. I've always used a comedic vantage point to try to kind of get people to see the greater point. And the greater point is, do you know, after the horrible shooting in Charleston, South Carolina, which was horrible, 9 people died. Dylan Roof perpetrated just a heinous act. A month after that, you know what happened?
What happened?
Cecil the Lion was killed. And money from all over the country poured in, and not one lion on that pride has died. Now, Cecil the nigga get killed. It's pretty much
done.
So I just think our perspectives are. I think we'd be better, and I think it's an interesting premise to ask.
No, it actually is. I mean, you have a lot to say. We know that you talk a lot on the radio. You talk a lot on stage. You write a lot of books, and all of that will be your legacy. But what if you only had enough words for 3 sentences to be your legacy? What would they be?
I did it.
That's one. That's it. That's enough.
It.
And that's what you want to be known for. I did it.
Well,
because what is it?
Whatever I'm
it could be
for,
you did this hat.
Whatever I'm known for ain't gonna be my business. I'm gonna be
Do you not
trying
care?
to get some ice.
Do you really not care what people think about you when you're gone?
It's futile.
But your family will still, your kids will still be here. It doesn't bother you.
That'll be up to them. It won't. It actually won't bother me because I would be dead. I mean, that's the point of being dead. If I was gonna be dead, I would stop. I would like that.
You're such a smart ass.
I'm just, my goal is to do the best I can for as long as I can, as clearly as I can. And what I would like for posterity or for my family, or whoever remembers me and even cares about what happens after I'm gone, is that they recognize the person that people are talking about. Like, I don't want to be. Like, you ever been to a funeral and they talking so good about a person you knew wasn't worth a damn that you think you're in the wrong funeral?
No, well, you don't have to worry about that. I'm so sure that people will speak the truth about you, as they often do now on social media and everywhere else. What is the one thing that, speaking of being remembered for, what's the one thing that you want to be remembered the most for? Some people would say they want it to be their kids or the bodies of work. What's the one, for instance, I know you love James Baldwin. Right. And there are certain books and certain quotes that he is remembered for. Right. What is the thing you want to be most remembered for?
That would depend on like there's when people used to have albums. There was the songs that the record industry thought would be dope,
right?
Or the radio people thought were dope. But then there was those B-sides that you just kind of dug.
The album cuts that you liked, right?
And those were generally the ones that the artist was more invested in.
Yeah.
Not
because a lot of Luther's records, the B cuts, right, the album cuts, were probably the ones that people remember the most.
Because it didn't have a connection to commerce. It wasn't what'll sell. It's what I feel. So it was honest. It was probably their more honest, artistically creative pieces. So for me, it is the things I've done or hope to do that people don't quite get yet, and maybe they will later on.
So last question for you, because I want to go get something to eat. When you, it's just the truth. I'm hungry. Then you got to feed me.
Listen,
this is true.
All great.
This is nice. You and your little cap is cute. Right. I want some to eat.
This is not a cap. This is dope.
You and this swote.
This is beaver.
That is not a beaver
It
hat.
is a beaver.
Let me see the
A
label.
beaver is my spirit animal. Yes, it's a beaver.
Let's
I mean,
read
I
what it
didn't kill
says.
it. I mean, I don't want to.
I don't even know what this says.
Absolutely.
So let me.
Beaver is my spirit animal.
So most people, when they see you, they see all of this.
Right. How dope.
And you're known for that. The tattoos now, which by the way have grown substantially since we started working together.
Right.
They're everywhere.
Right.
The way you dress, all of
I'm
that.
dope. Right.
What do you think is probably the most?
Are you hungry? You're
No.
not the same when you're not
I'm
hungry.
trying to. You either,
the same.
Esther. What do you think people probably have wrong about you?
It's always funny because
everybody always asks me, are you really this mean? Are you really, do you joke like this all the time? And I really don't want to tell them the truth. But what do you think, like, the most common misconception about you
I'm
is
not
what?
literally, I literally am not that presumptuous. Because you ever notice that pretty women always tell you why someone doesn't like them? They always say, well, it's because I'm smart, or it's because I'm intimidating, it's because I'm successful. You can't write somebody's narrative of you. And to believe that you had that kind of latitude is folly. Generally, you are what people say you are, at least to them. So I'm not uncomfortable with people having an assessment of me that's opposite of what I'd like.
Well, no, I mean in terms of, like, most people assume that, you know, you are friends with all of these celebrities and you hang out and, you know, you go to all these parties. You hang out, but you are a creature of habit. You hang in the same places. You do not ever want to go to parties. You are, as, you know, someone in your family, your daughter says, you're the worst celebrity friend ever.
You know why I don't like to go to parties? You know why I don't like to go to parties? Because they make me feel as if I'm beholden to someone. Like, I don't go to premieres because I'm beholden to, it would be
to who? The person who invited you, or the people who see you when you get there?
But I'm talking about in terms of, like, it's almost like there is this collaborative notion that since we all do the same thing, we all kind of feel the same way, and we all, it's like, it feels like, and obviously it's not that way, and the people are very close, and I'm very close to some people, and I'm not as close to others, but I don't ever want to feel like I owe somebody something, even if that's a nod in my professional assessment or something, or in my comedic assessment or something. Like it's almost like if you party and hang out with somebody, they're almost off limits to you, and I don't ever want to feel like that.
Yeah, and you're certainly not off limits. No, that hat should be off limits. And on that note, I want to go eat because I'm hungry, because the hat is obnoxious. It's
not
huge.
Obnoxious, it's dope. What did you think? What do you think?
I think what you do is you walk into a store and you look for the most obnoxious thing and you say, that is what I'm going to buy.
Here's what happens. And I'm ashamed that you don't know me like this.
You know that to be true.
Beaver lost his life.
Mm-hmm. And now you're proudly displaying it on your head.
Let me tell you how deep I am. This beaver lost his life. Mm-hmm. You think he would rather end up on my head or somebody who wouldn't really appreciate it?
Have you seen your head lately?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, you can't tell the difference between this hair and mine. It was almost.
Wait a minute.
We have the same hairstyle.
No, you don't.
I think this beaver deserved to be exalted, and I make sure it does.
Let's have a moment of silence for the beaver that's on your head.
It's so dope.
And after that, let's please go get something to eat, because I'm starving.
No, me and my beaver going to get something to eat. I actually have a snack under this hat right here.
I have a headache for you in that hat. I think that really, Ken, come on, somebody. Okay, the hat is dope, but you look like a little tin soldier. The hat, the coat.
Be who I am.
You could be anything you want to be.
That's right. I would reject the premise.
Don't try to sound smart now. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Be who I am.
That's okay. You can be who you are.
Now, if you excuse me, I have to go see my other comrades at the consulate
to see if you can get some stuff
to make sure we can make sure Donald Trump has his next payment.
Can you just say one thing for me? Mm-hmm. More toys.
That's German. That's German.
You can't know the difference. Just say it.
No, I'm not saying that. I don't say your
we'll
words.
Just say this
I
then.
say mine.
I'm Mr. Heat Miser.
Some people won't
say
let
that.
You know what? I have to go feed my beaver.